And we were sitting there introducing, and I was like, hey, I go, hey Liz, and she goes, hi, and then she turns around and walks out, I'm like, she has no idea who I am. We were closer than this.
It was overwhelming.
I know, so then I called her, I said, did you not recognize me? She goes, where?
Oh, man.
I know, I felt really
You were
bad.
right along,
I did.
a GIF one,
Oh, it was great.
yeah.
A good one too.
There was apparently, I don't think this is, I signed a non-disclosure, but can I say one call?
Yeah, just don't use names.
Well, it was a cow. Apparently there was a cow on Highway 97.
Cows aren't protected.
I didn't think so.
No cow's name?
So, I think other people were trying to respond to it and Travis Rainwater is the deputy. He says, let's go up there and check it out. So we're going, and I got my eyes peeled. I'm gonna help find the cow. No cow.
No doubt. There you go.
I'm looking for the. No, it was great. It was, for me to really understand what goes on. And, the 911 call center and dispatch and just all of it. And
I can't believe just how observant you guys are, because I can't remember the person I rode with, but like, it's like seeing check for license plates so quickly. And then and at one point he goes, now, did you see that? Is there one on the back? And I'm like,
That deteriorates with age. I already noticed coming back to the road and I'm like. Next thing I'm like on their bumper trying to get the license plate.
oh, it was stuff like that that I found amazing, and I had no idea that you could check speed in front, behind, on the side coming at me, which gives me a whole different okay, yes. In my lane.
oh, I see. Jen is connecting.
I am just testing it.
Fun fact, though, most bin police officers don't have radar signs.
So that's working.
Okay, we're good.
You'll see the ones that
Okay.
run on the light.
All right,
Yeah.
let's try that
But not in
again.
their
Are you
cars.
still recording?
I am still, yeah, and
Well,
it
they're-
showed up that
they're-
it was recording on my, when I logged
Oh,
in.
it did.
So I confirmed that we're recording and I could hear you guys.
Okay, so Matt, hopefully you can hear us as well.
I
July
can hear you
14,
guys.
2025, officially started the meeting at 6:06 PM. This is the Cannabis Advisory Panel. We will do a go around to introduce everybody. Isa, if you'd like to start.
Yeah, sure. My name is Isa Willoughby Warren. I am with the Anti-Trafficking Project or APP Project. And I am their labor trafficking coordinator.
Thank you.
My name is Brianne Barrett. I'm the program director for the Anti-Trafficking Project and along with Lake Exhibiting.
Jeremy Kiffin, Deschutes Basin Watermaster.
I'm Hunter Neubauer, I'm with Orgron.
I'm Liz Latochinsky. I'm chair of this panel.
Mary Fleischman at large.
Detective Kevin Riding with the marijuana team. I took Miller's spot after he got promoted.
Anthony Ramos, a detective with Deschutes County, illegal marijuana.
Dustin Miller, Sergeant with Deschutes County Sheriff's Office.
Jim Patterson, Strategic Initiatives Manager and County Staff Support for this committee.
And we have Matt Hurt on the line, but you're muted, so I'll just say, oh.
Hey,
Say
you guys
Matt, it
hear
looks
me?
like you keep trying to talk, but we can't hear you unfortunately. And I don't see the chat,
okay.
chat anything. If you want to say anything, you can also email me.
Oh,
There he is.
We can see you, we just can't hear you.
Hopefully you're not in Deschutes County because we have.
Sheriff's can see you.
He's hands-free.
Yes, that's true. All right,
Maybe.
good, so you
I
can
don't know,
hear
that
us.
right
Thank
hand
you.
was stuff.
All right. First order of business is to approve the very short minutes that Jen thankfully typed up on our behalf. Can I have a call to approve or a motion to?
I'll make the motion to.
Thank you, Mary, and a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Hunter. Minutes are approved. Before we get into the presentation, we do have 4 people, 3 of whom are participating in this meeting. Well, actually 2, Hunter and Matt, your terms are expiring October 17th of this year. Please stay. Please stay. Stay.
I beg of you.
Happy to stay.
For 2 years?
Sure.
This is why you're gonna stay.
Now, all we need is a thumbs up for you. 2 more years of your service, please.
Matt,
Oh, he's not.
you may
gonna
not
give
have
us-
been able to hear.
He's not gonna give us video. Okay.
You can also email me individually, Matt, or call me.
And I should also say that in about a year, I'm gonna move to Nashville, Tennessee, where my parents live. I know.
You can do this remote.
With this technology.
Well, that is definitely user error and not technology.
I know, I know.
just for the record.
So I'm not sure when, I thought June, July of 26 and then I realized that it's brutally hot and very humid in Nashville and I'd rather be here with maybe some relief, at least during the night. So it's probably gonna be September, October of 26. So I just wanted to put that out there.
All sad face.
I know. Thank you.
Okay. Well, congratulations, though. That was fun.
I'm going because of my parents. My mom is in a care facility. My dad is in a too big of a house and he's got mobility issues. And they have been terrific parents to me and I just feel like I need to be the good daughter. Okay, with that, sorry for the little personal blurb. We are very curious to hear about your anti-trafficking project. Okay.
Yeah, so.
Oh, there's a
we got
PowerPoint.
little- Yeah, do you want to?
Now bear with me here.
Liz, did you want to mention my position?
Oh. Dustin, why don't you tell us your position?
I'm on the board.
Hmm?
On the board,
Well,
when it comes up.
so you also expired on the 17th of October, but you just called and indicated that Tony will be able to take your position. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct, and Jen had mentioned changing it to maybe a year as opposed to 2 years.
Oh,
So because of the potential turnover in that office, in case Tony were to be promoted or something along those lines, you guys be willing to change that to a 1 year.
for Tony?
seat for law enforcement.
Okay.
Law enforcement in general, it makes sense. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Jen,
Because
did
of
you
the
hear that?
potential turnout.
Sort of that, something about the 2-year term.
Yeah, for law enforcement, have it as a 1-year term because of the turnover.
Turnovers.
Okay. So a 1-year term but you're gonna still check first, or do you want me to just?
No,
do
I
the
already
1 year?
checked and I got authorization.
Oh, you did, that's what you did, okay, so you're
Tony's
gonna be
gonna-
1-year term, okay.
Well, so
Sorry, I
I
did not listen at all.
will, I will surrender my seat in October. And then if he can be voted in, if that vote goes that way.
Yeah, I just bring it before the commissioners, so
Okay.
I'll just do that, and then, so Tony will do a 1-year term,
Yeah, we'll start with the 1 year.
starting October
If he's
17th.
still here in a year, and wants to continue a year,
Okay.
just because of the turnover, if he gets promoted and he leaves.
Sure.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a chance that I might even go back there in a year. And if he
Right.
were to leave and then I may be able to come back in a year, so.
Okay.
This, to make it easier, instead of having to have like a special election or
Yeah.
somebody surrender their position, have to do something like that.
That makes sense.
okay, so we got Hunter for 2-year, Tony's gonna come on board for 1 year, and then we still have Gary and Matt.
And Matt, you know, I mean, monkey's on his back. I say he agreed to too. All right, thank you.
Yeah. Good. Okay, this is doing it, it looks weird on mine, but.
I feel like
There we go.
it changes colors when we project it for some reason, so
Yeah.
I'm not really sure why.
Okay, and you guys can do something else on that.
Thank you.
Space bar, and then you need to go back. Either space bar to go forward, and arrows back. Perfect.
Awesome. So like I said, my name's Bree Barrett. I'm the program director for the anti-trafficking project. Our program's been around since roughly 2018 as a human trafficking task force, and it has developed services along with that. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but I'll let Asa jump into it first.
Yeah, we just wanted to add too that we definitely condensed this and are giving you a little teaser of what we do. So if any of you guys wanted like a longer training, we're more than happy to either come again or come to your respective businesses, agencies that you work for. But
This is not a training. We're just more presenting our
Yeah.
program. So
but I won't stop for questions as much throughout, but please interrupt me. This can be super casual. If you have any questions as we go, definitely let us know. But yeah, Aixa, labor trafficking coordinator with the app project, and we'll kind of just dive in. I've heard that you guys are aware of human trafficking, which is incredible. That's half the battle, and are probably familiar with this definition. But just so we know that we're all on the same page, human trafficking is a crime involving the exploitation of individuals through force, fraud, or coercion. for various purposes, including first labor, services, or commercial sex. On the side here, you'll see the 3 different types of trafficking that we have: sex trafficking, labor trafficking, and then as well as CSEC, the commercial sexual exploitation of children. Just want to double tap on CSEC, the reason for a difference. This is specific to sex trafficking. Minors are not of age of consent, so they can never consent to sex, and so there is a slight difference in the definition for children when it comes to sex trafficking. And that there does not need to be the forced fraud coercion piece. There still needs to be the exchange of something of value, but the forced fraud and coercion does need to be there. I also did want to point out that it's currently in the works that labor trafficking as of February 1st, 2026 will now be included in the definition of child abuse in the state of Oregon. Bree and I actually sit on a work group kind of trying to think through all the nuances of that, but just wanted to kind of point that out as well. That's coming.
And it had not been?
No, and they wanted to, you still had to prove force, fraud, or coercion, and so now they're trying to broaden that definition and actually I think hopefully just have to prove force, but not the other 2. So anyways, it's been very complicated. We're working with ODHS to kind of develop a protocol for their hotline right now so that it will be a little bit more clear. But at least people weren't reporting it, so I think there's also just a lack of understanding what that looks like.
Do you have any idea how many children are being exploited in Oregon?
Ooh, that is a very, very tough number to be able to even guess at. We worked with just over 100 clients last year, adults and youth. Most were under the age of 18 or between 18 and 24. We had clients who were older than that, and that's just who's been referred to us. That includes sex and labor trafficking. We are definitely working with a lot more labor trafficking victims this year. We had a group of 12 that were all referred to us at the same time from the same place. And so I think we're gonna start seeing more large groups of labor trafficking individuals come into services where before we were more getting individual.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
In Oregon, I don't know the statistics. There really aren't any. We're the only ones that collect data in our area, and most of the state doesn't have anybody who's collecting any data.
Right.
Yeah, so we want to touch on kind of what you're asking, who are the victims? And when we think about who are the victims, we focus in on who might be more vulnerable to labor trafficking or sex trafficking. And the reason being that anyone can be a victim of trafficking of both forms. Traffickers, unfortunately, are really good at what they do. And everyone has a desire to either better themselves through employment or also just be loved, accepted, seen. And unfortunately, traffickers exploit that. These are some of the most common vulnerabilities that we see. These are vulnerabilities that if we're seeing them in clients or referrals, we're definitely kind of raising some flags of okay, we need to start asking further questions and make sure that these folks are either safe or qualify for our services. And you'll see, well, I will pause. Are any of these surprising to any of you guys based on, I'm seeing a lot of nods, unfortunately, yeah.
Well, I am kind of surprised that up to 50% males.
Yeah, that's one,
actually.
absolutely, yeah, I like to point that out, and I will say, I think that'll, as we begin to see more and more labor trafficking clients, I think that'll even grow, honestly. A lot of that is sex trafficking at this point, that number, but yeah, absolutely.
But is that also, because this is what I've seen from time to time, young people ringing the doorbell because they're supposed to work for some company.
Yeah,
Have
sales
any kind
crews
of
are,
patient or anything.
yeah, sales crews are very common,
Okay.
labor trafficking, and we've often seen just at our youth homeless shelters here, kind of trying to pick up kids that are there that are very vulnerable.
Okay.
Yeah, and I also say with young males, I think just our culture doesn't really see males as victims often. It's more oh, they got to sleep with an older woman, or all those things that if you found a little girl, there would be a different response to it. So I think it's just underreported or aren't believed for it.
I don't mean for this question to be political, but with what's going on with ICE, is that gonna have an impact on either children or
Yeah.
adults?
We are seeing a couple of our undocumented youth victims who are here unaccompanied. Who are, or, you know, we have to take them to immigration court, and I know that they're terrified to go. We're also seeing with adults, one, they might be here following everything legally, but they don't want to, like, they might not know what their rights are, so we're doing a lot of education to surround workers' rights as well. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of fear right now.
Yeah.
I also think that kind of coming off of some of the labor trafficking marijuana piece, often we don't see our clients want to report to law enforcement just because there's a lot of fear around that. And that actually can lead them to get a continued presence, which leads to getting them a T visa with immigration, but you have to be willing to cooperate with law enforcement.
Right.
And so we're just seeing less people want to do that right now just because they don't trust that process.
So also going into who are the traffickers, you'll see that a third on there is unfortunately parents and caregivers. And when we think about, yeah, I know that's a really tough stat to see. When we're thinking about labor trafficking a little bit more and also with marijuana, definitely the employer and the intimate partner kind of play a little bit more, intimate partner being like domestic servitude. But yeah, the parent and caregiver one always is really tough to see.
Is there a like specific wrong word for field, or maybe what would parent caregiver specifically, like what's that kind of relationship that you're seeing?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's just a high percentage of familial trafficking, specifically usually with sex trafficking. Also the thing with both sex and labor is a lot of times there's both happening. Folks are a little more keen to spot out sex trafficking than they are trained up on how to spot labor trafficking. So we've even had clients that maybe are referred to us for sex trafficking. We start working with them, and then as we learn more, we're like, yeah, you also unfortunately labor trafficked. But yeah, that's kind of.
Another thing just with labor trafficking we see is that, especially with the youth, it might be considered forced criminality by labor trafficking. So their parents might say, you have to go sell drugs for us and you can't come home tonight if you don't. So that would also be considered labor trafficking by the parent. So we see that a little bit more where it's usually for money, drugs, things that they need from their kids being able to work.
An intimate partner, that partner to me sounds like there is a relationship.
It is hardly ever somebody they don't know. It's gonna be somebody that they've built a relationship with over a period
So
of
it's
time.
like the
The
grooming.
grooming process, there's many times that that's happening on social media, and
Right.
then our clients go to meet up with them and then realize it's not the situation that they thought they were getting themselves into.
So a big question we always get asked after people start to learn a little more about trafficking is like, okay, what do I do now? How do I spot it? What do I look for? And we talk about indicators, but we have a few disclaimers before we get into some indicators. Indicators are merely serve as an initial reference point for assessing a situation. So if you see an indicator, it could be a great, and you have maybe a relationship with the individual, that's a great indicator to maybe like have an additional conversation with them, maybe keep, you know, a closer eye on them and help them out. But that doesn't necessarily, if you see one of the things on the next slide, mean like absolutely trafficking is happening. And oftentimes, you know, maybe you'll see just one, maybe you'll see all of what we're about to show. Sometimes there are no indicators. And so that's why it's really important they can be a really good tool, but they're not the end all be all. And it's also really important to remember that most of the time people are not self-identifying as victims of trafficking, especially in their trafficking experience. It can take a couple of years before people really can kind of come to terms that they were victimized in that way. So these are some examples of some indicators. Some of the ones that we kind of see a little bit more when it comes to labor trafficking, you know, I mentioned the immigration piece, lack of official identification or documents, or knowledge about personal details is a big one. also kind of like not a great awareness of where they are, just like geographically. Oftentimes we see folks moving around a lot, and so they kind of like don't really know where they are. Another presence of controlling individuals, especially older companions. A big kind of touch point for folks that have been labor trafficked, especially like on marijuana grows, can be the doctor's office. Traffickers typically don't want these people interacting with the community, but if things get so bad that they no longer can do the work that they need them to do, then they may allow them to, go to the doctor. Oftentimes they'll be accompanied and like they won't, leave them be. We definitely see this with sex trafficking as well, but just trying to kind of stay on topic. But yeah, as you can, and there's plenty more that we could have added on here. As well.
One indicator that came out of a couple of the Southern Oregon marijuana grows was high risk for tuberculosis because of living in such tight quarters. So that is something that when we train medical professionals also to just keep that in mind as you're working with people.
What now? I found someone that's being trafficked. What do I do?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was just our very clear, just to make sure we're all on the same page. This is a just screenshot from our website page. So our program provides direct service. So we provide both kind of crisis intervention services, which could look like referrals to or getting into like medical care, getting a short-term hotel stay, covering basic necessities, anything that would help them in that exact moment, try to get to somewhere safe. And then we work with them to safety plan and come up with the next steps. And then we do long-term case management. So we work with people anywhere from 1 day to 3-4 years. So we're really there for the long haul as far as providing comprehensive supports. We know that trafficking is not something that you can heal from and get, past in a very short amount of time. And there's lots of barriers. We see a lot of times with our labor trafficking victims that they don't have any identification. So just having to get IDs, things like that, so they can get into housing. There's lots of different steps. So we'll kind of work with them along the way to do that. We also offer support groups. So we do weekly support groups. So our goal is to really help people go from, crisis to self-sufficiency, and then hope to kind of transition them if they still want that support and have other peers around them going into our support group. So we have, that community as you're leaving.
I always like to point out too, it's cut off on the screenshot, but our website can be really easily toggled into Spanish as well, which is really rad.
And I'll also just point out, if you ever do need assistance, that Get Help tab at the top is a quick referral form that you can fill out. We usually have actually the person referring do it, and we'll give them a call back, see how we can do a warm handoff. We primarily meet clients out in the community. Hardly ever are they having to come to us. We just want to break down that barrier. And we also serve all 3 counties as well as Warm Springs.
Are you guys, are you directly connected to all the stickers and like the restrooms?
We're not. That's with in our backyard. So they do primarily training, but they're actually a national agency. So they can they do a lot of stuff around the Super Bowl and do like a big thing with law enforcement at that time. They sit on our task force though, and they're great partners.
So if somebody calls that number, do you get connected to them?
The number on the bathroom is the national hotline, and that actually does come to us. We're the local response for that. So we have a 24-hour hotline that only goes to through the national hotline, or if law enforcement calls us. We don't have it open to everyone. We just don't have a big enough team to be able to respond. Also, we were getting lots of calls at one point that were like, we have somebody at our church and they just need a shower, but it wasn't anything to do with trafficking. And we're like, I can't help with this. So we were just trying to like cut down on some of the calls, and we just don't have a big enough so law enforcement and the national hotline come to us. That is our direct line. I will say the fastest way to usually get a hold of us is just doing the online referral. We get back within 48 hours. It's usually within the same day. But if you need more of a crisis response, calling us directly, and we will do our best to send somebody over as fast as we can. There. Some of the other things we offer is like mentioned crisis intervention, case management. A lot of what we do is just safety planning, making sure that they have a backup plan. We can offer transportation assistance. We have a kind of network of agencies across the entire nation that we have partnerships with, so we can look at safe shelters if they need to get out of the area. Lots of safety planning with youth as they think they're gonna run away to go be with their 18-year-old boyfriend they met online, but it's usually a 50-year-old sex offender on the other side. So we do lots of safety planning, lots of hanging out with kids and trying to, you know, talk some sense into them, which is never easy. We do have some housing assistance. Obviously, Central Oregon is very difficult. We have a couple of vouchers, but it is probably our most difficult thing to offer, and it's also the most needed service for our clients. Let's see, we do a lot of protocol development too with agencies. Like we said, we're working with ODHS right now to help them develop a screening that they would do through their hotline for labor trafficking. We've done this stuff with St. Charles. We also did with Planned Parenthood, so they have some protocols developed if they are working with anybody. And then I'll talk about our coverage. You can go to the next one. We have run it used to be the Deschutes County CSAC response team. It only focused on youth. Our task force has expanded to cover all 3 counties: sex trafficking, labor trafficking, CSAC. We do case staffings for youth clients now. So if there isn't a big issue, we can call together a whole team of anybody who might touch on that youth and be able to pull together a group, see what we can do, share information, kind of like the child abuse MDT that takes place. We have agencies across all 3 counties. We are still working to kind of get a couple agencies from Warm Springs. Of course, everybody's very understaffed, so it just takes some time. But the task force meets quarterly for our larger events. Anybody is welcome to come to those. And then we also do close youth-focused ones where we talk about confidential cases.
Right, so kind of where we intersect and why we're here, the Cannabis Workers Program. So back in 2022, actually DCSO reached out to us and they're like, hey, we are having this issue with illicit marijuana grows in the community. We need an NGO to kind of help us out and help with the victims. And so we said, heck yeah. So we applied for this grant. And it has been great. One thing of note with this grant, it allows us to work with folks that not only have been trafficked in illicit marijuana, but have also been exploited. So that's kind of different to everyone else that we work with, which is kind of a great caveat. And a lot of times, I actually just did a training on this with the staff, and we kind of like to think of exploitation as another indicator for trafficking. Oftentimes, if a workplace has a lot of exploitation, it's just a hop, skip, and away from trafficking happening. Definitely not saying that all exploitation is trafficking, but it definitely can be an indicator. Yeah, so we have the Cannabis Workers Program. And then through that work and with this these specific clients that we have been able to interact with through this grant, these are the specific supports that we've provided. Legal support is absolutely one of the biggest ones, whether it's immigration support or kind of credit relief kind of falls within that as well, or just figuring out how to reach out to bully to get wages replaced, things like that. These are a really rad group of individuals. I'm grateful I've gotten to work with quite a few of them, and oftentimes they're very keen on getting things done and getting things done well and right, and all they want to do is have a job. And so it's been really rad to kind of work with them and support them through the legal system that even I still get really confused by. Transportation, housing support, as Bree said, is another one of our #1 needs for our clients. Referrals is a big one. We unfortunately, just like with mentioning legal support, unfortunately don't have a lawyer on staff as much as I dream and ask for it all the time. But we do have great partnerships in the community and people that we refer out to, immigration support as well. The credit relief is really great. We have the ability to kind of approve someone's status of being a victim of labor trafficking, and then they can kind of take that to the bureaus, and once that goes through, the credit bureaus have, I think it's 5 days, 3 days?
They have to, so we're certified through the Office of Trafficking in Person to certify somebody as a victim of trafficking. And then they can send those letters to all the major credit agencies, and they go through their credit history and say every charge that was related to their trafficking. And then the credit bureaus are required by law to take that off their credit history within 5 days. That has cut down on a lot of hardship around, just getting into housing, which is, you have poor credit, most people are not going to approve you to get into housing. So there's just so many different hurdles that take place, and it used to take more like 3 to 4 months to get that history. And of course, it was hard to prove that it was because of trafficking. So that has actually been, I think we've helped almost every one of our trafficking clients that came from the illicit marijuana farms with that.
Yeah.
And how many clients, I think is your term,
Yeah.
which is great, have you assisted from an illicit cannabis grow?
Yeah, it's not a lot. I think we're like 6 or 7, and I will say, we went out with DCSO a couple weeks ago to the Chinese cartel run one, but they had already left and thought they were
Yeah.
gonna be victims. Every client that we have worked with has actually been referred through partners that have we have trained, and they got to go to know them, and then they referred us to them, which I also think is kind of the difficult part of, I'm sorry, law enforcement. It's just like, it's a scary thing to report to them, and so it's taken a while. Another interesting thing is, I'd say that like 3 to 4 of those people were also then labor trafficked in a different industry afterwards.
Yeah.
So there was multiple intersectionality there, and just kind of looking at how vulnerable those people are to being susceptible to other predatory industries as well.
Right, well, and when Dustin was sharing the alfalfa grow situation, when you guys went on site, everybody just scattered, even though the living conditions were deplorable there, right? So, I mean, that's probably a challenge, is to
We encountered about 28.
28, wow, what ages?
Anywhere from low teens to 60s. There were families where the father, they were brought into the country via coyote, these are their statements. And then he was there to work off his debt, and then his kids and his wife were with him, and then they were going to work off their kids and wife's stuff.
Oh my gosh,
So,
wow. Wow.
Also, since July of 2022, when we were awarded this grant funding, we've been able to do 66 trainings touching on labor trafficking and the Cannabis Workers Program, which has totaled to 1,876 people trained, which is amazing. And also, really to kind of Bree's point, is how we're able to get those referrals is through those trainings. Most of the time when we do a training, we end up getting a referral pretty shortly after from that agency of like, you know what, I've got someone I want to talk to you about. So it's really great to kind of see how impactful these trainings can be.
And where do you do the trainings? Is it companies?
We primarily do agencies, so agencies that are gonna be working with vulnerable populations. We've done like trainings with churches and things like that as well. I'd say primarily agencies though that have reached out wanting a training.
Pretty much any field you can think of though, I think we do a
Yeah.
pretty good job.
And I
of
will also
every-
say with labor trafficking, we're trying to get more into businesses now, just knowing, and I'll say labor trafficking is still such a complex issue and it's hard to identify. And so I think as a nation, as a state, locally, we are still working on how to figure out how to better identify and report this. So we're learning a lot along the way with everybody else. I think I came into this job thinking people knew more than they did, and it's been a kind of a awakening of nobody knows what they're doing with labor trafficking. So I'm like, if I don't fully know, nobody else is, and this is like what I do every day.
Yeah. Along those lines, if anyone's in the construction business or knows anyone, I would love to do trainings with the construction in town.
You should reach out to Central Oregon Builders Association.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Perfect, thank you. We got a couple more slides. You mentioned this is the number for the human trafficking hotline, and like we said, we do respond to this here locally. Can also people can also text it, and there's also a live chat online if that's, makes people more comfortable. We always love to, this can be kind of a heavy topic, so always love to end with a success story. Having just one person who shows up and believes in you makes all the difference. I'm now living a life outside of trafficking that I never thought was possible. Sarah?
We, in the last 2 years, also developed a survivor leadership council. So we have survivors that meet together monthly and basically advise us on pretty much everything we do. So it goes through them, including right now we're working on some better labor trafficking materials to do some more outreach for. So they're in the process of proving that.
I'm biased, but they're looking pretty good. Yeah, and we can open up to questions, and I'll just leave this slide up that has Bree and my direct line. That's also our office line and all that good stuff. Yeah, any other questions?
I mean, how would I know if I know somebody who's been trafficked? At any, I mean, I've listened to all of that and
It is really hard to know, and I feel like even a lot of people who have been trafficked don't really recognize it as that. A large amount of like our youth clients would just say, especially with sex trafficking, it's a lot like, no, I was just talking with a guy online, like not even like view it as exploitation. They gave me money, they let me stay here for the night. Like it's more like they don't see themselves as a victim. But we do an hour-long training that kind of gets more into like the nitty-gritty of everything. But yeah, unless you kind of get to know somebody and they start sharing and asking some more details, it is very difficult to tell. I feel like we have some staff who are survivors that, you would never be able to be like that person was a victim of trafficking, because that's not what it looks like.
right.
We always like to let people know, like, we are here as a resource. If there is someone that you feel like, oh, maybe, like, I don't really know,
Right.
like, you can definitely call us. We're never, even our longer training, we're never expecting folks to leave and be like, and now I know everything there is to
Right.
know.
And I would say, we always say, just call. We're happy to talk through the situation. We don't need names. You could just,
Yeah.
kind of be like, well, maybe you should ask some additional questions. Like, this is what I would ask. I'd say 90% of our referrals are like, I think it is, but I don't know. I'm like, we can confirm that. And sometimes it even takes us a couple weeks working with somebody, getting to know them a little bit better. And we always say, like, we'll start working with you. If we're not the correct fit, we'll refer you out to other services, just because somebody's not gonna always come out immediately with those details. So yeah, encourage people to just call us if you have any questions.
Yeah, it just seems like it would be more agency related to get those referrals because, just I'm retired and I have 50 years of working with younger people, which I'm retired from that now.
Yeah.
But, so it wouldn't be like I have those kind of relationships with kiddos anymore, so.
And one thing we've expanded a lot, we have partnerships with, we're at 13 or 14 youth serving agencies that we screen every youth that comes into services for indicators. We do that with the people they're working with, so case managers, advocates, DHS workers. So we can get a better sense, and we do that with every youth that comes through their doors. So it's not just, people who they are suspicious of. So it has led to a lot of great conversations, also led to better referrals coming from those agencies who are like, oh, this is trafficking. So doing that a lot more and trying at least to capture the like vulnerable youth in our town. So
I think typically our biggest ask to like more so the general public is always just like raise awareness for us and start conversations around trafficking. A lot of people have never sat through something like this, and so just like gaining more awareness in a community is just gonna make it safer for everybody. So
That's why Lynn brought up like these guys that are knocking on the door and stuff, and there's no vehicle out there.
yeah.
They're walking down the street. And it's always bothering me, like, okay, something's wrong here.
Yeah, no, I think traveling like sales crews are very notorious for labor trafficking. So, yeah. I mean, I think in those situations, if it's safe to ask them if they're okay, like you can. I also would encourage people to just make a tip to the hotline. Just say like, this is happening in our area. That does go to law enforcement, but sometimes it's more about how many tips have been made, that we could actually look at it a little closer. So we encourage people to call that national hotline.
That's good to know.
You guys get funding through CJC for like a portion of what you guys do? Is that-
Yeah.
It doesn't fund the whole entire thing, correct?
No, so the CJC funding is just for the illicit marijuana farm, same funding you guys have for that. We just reapplied. I hope you guys put in your application. I know was it Danielle? She was typing it out one day when I was calling her. So yeah, we're hoping to be refunded through this, so we can continue. We'll continue this work, but this funding does help a lot more to have that.
You see instances of trafficking locally of people, particularly women and kids, being represented as a family asking for money. There's a certain place in town where I've seen it with several recurring people for years, and like the kids should be in school. But I'm like,
Yeah.
like that doesn't mean it's trafficking. Could just mean that it's a family that's hard up and that are making not smart decisions or not the right decisions for their children, but
Yeah.
that has come to my mind. I used to live in LA briefly, and it was a big thing in LA that
Yeah.
there was a lot of campaigns about of like particularly women who were being forced to ask for money at busy intersections with trafficking, and so
Yeah.
I've always thought that, and
There was a homeless shelter in Oregon that actually was making their residents go out and panhandle and then bring that back.
Oh
It was
my
like
God.
huge labor trafficking thing. So yes, we're always aware of that, and we have seen that, and we have been talking about that. We've also, I don't know, been kind of curious about like the different fruit stands where people are setting up or selling flowers, where I'm like, I don't know, and I don't want to ever
Like
make
sick boxes.
assumptions, but we're gonna.
I know, like, do you go and ask? Like, I would never, but like, I'm like.
We actually have been like in the process of developing a plan to do more street-based outreach. We're just trying to go through kind of all the situations of safety and what that would look like. So yes, if there are places that you think are hotspots, let us know and we will see what we can do.
There's
'Cause
one
I
place in
think,
particular that I think every
Yeah.
time I see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can think of a couple right now.
you know, I feel like there's a spot
There's
like
one
the
particular
east
family
side
that I see.
Safeway and over by, what is that, other side of town by like the Home Depot, that there's a few times I've been like, ooh, I don't know.
It's the exit from Target.
Yeah,
basically,
yes, I know exactly where you're talking.
And there's this one family and it just, I've seen specifically how the male of the family interacts with the other members there.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel right. But I don't also like, people just have different lifestyles.
Yeah.
Right.
I know, that's always challenging, especially working like ODHS, where it's like being homeless doesn't mean you're
Right.
abusing your children, but at the same time, like, are there other things going on? And I know it's a challenge.
So with the illegal grows and the staff running away, how can you, wrap it, like, how do you get them not to run away so that support would be available? Or when they see you guys pull up, is it just run?
It's a big net. It depends. We haven't had a lot of Hispanic grows, large scale, like 3,000 style grows. Those have gone down significantly.
Okay,
Uh,
good,
What we're seeing more that would be more labor trafficking would be your Chinese grows.
okay,
Those are very hard to prove because a lot of them are being paid close to $1,000 a week to $1,000 a month, depending on what it is. And they don't want to be victims.
oh.
Yeah.
They like their job.
Yeah.
So like-
Or it's safer, or they have a place to stay.
Or they know that when they're done, they'll be relocated and continue to make $1,000 a week, whatever it is. But statistically, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Chinese grows that we have had not had cooperative victims.
It's the language barriers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were hopeful with this last, obviously, it didn't turn out how we had hoped, but we were hopeful with this last one, we were able to an in-person interpreter who spoke both Mandarin and Cantonese. The other tricky thing is we never know specifically what language they're going to speak, which makes it increasingly more difficult to have that appropriate resource, but we were really hopeful that would help, but we didn't get to try it out and see, so.
Even the Chinese girl that we had in La Pine at one point, they spoke a certain dialect that was from a specific village that
Oh,
was not Cantonese and it was not Mandarin.
Oh, my gosh.
They,
And they all spoke that language?
yeah, I
Hmm.
believe that they probably understood a lot more than what we
Sure.
asked, but we, at that point, were using a language line. And it was not great, but
Yeah.
but then we even took a lot of their diaries and their
Mm.
ledgers and different things like that, sent it off to somebody who interpreted
Oh, wow.
down in California, Mandarin and Cantonese, and they looked at it and said, this is weird. Like, this is a different language.
Wow.
So, and there's a very specific village that is very common to this area that speaks that dialect. So the interpretation portion is really hard.
Yeah.
The other frustration, at least from my perspective, is that there's some cultural differences between law enforcement in somebody's home country versus up here.
Yeah.
We have two different, we have federal system, which is different than what we're doing.
Mhm.
We don't, there's a lot of things I don't wanna say don't care about, but they just doesn't hit our radar.
Sure.
Some of the ways we end up helping people is different than what they're not used to the government helping them, let's put it
Yeah,
that way.
yeah.
So when they see us show up, it's not because we're there to be nice and actually help them, so.
And to that point, like a lot of what we do with the clients we are working with is kind of like helping to like teach them how we do things here and how, you know, like our local law enforcement is not gonna report you to ICE, they legally cannot do that and like all these different things and obviously one person saying it, but it's been really cool to see kind of, I mean, we have been able to shift perspectives for folks that have worked with us long term. It's just typically, it takes a minute, it takes a beat, especially when you're coming out of a crisis situation where you're not at your top, at your peak, as you can imagine, and so it's been really cool to be able to be that kind of safe space and then encourage them, like, they really do wanna help, like, we can only do so much, you know, we have to kind of include them to finish it out.
And our hope was if there was victims at this last one, that we would be able to kind of set up, you know, just basic hygiene stuff, water, food. Also, we did a lot of deep dive into cultural things of like, it would be offensive to hand somebody cold water. So we brought hot water and tea and other things just to try to do that. But also just having resources translated, so if nothing else, like, here, if you can take this, and our number's on here, and maybe you'll reach out at some point. So most of it just trying to make that first connection, and hope at one point they might be ready.
I think one of the biggest things that you guys hit on that is most of your victims that are here being trafficked, whether it be Hispanic or Chinese or whatever, most of them don't know where they're at. They don't know where a bus.
They're just like dropped in.
Yeah.
They're
Wow.
brought here, they got food that comes to them, they don't leave the house or the farm or wherever it is there. So literally, they would walk out to Alfalfa Market Road and walk. Cause they have no idea where.
Oh, my gosh.
Or town is, so the resource for them would be more or less getting them into maybe a hotel stay for the night, like they say, getting some clothes. Maybe getting them a little bit of money on the debit card and a bus ticket. Right, which is not ideal for law enforcement, because if we're looking at it as labor trafficking, we want them to stick around to be a victim to testify for the case, which can be a year or two down the road,
Right.
which is not going to happen. They're
Right.
not, they're going to relocate wherever they're going to relocate. We will not have any contact with them anymore, so it makes it hard for the prosecution side of it. But the reality is the humanitarian side of it is a resource to get them back on their feet and not living in the desert or wherever.
Yeah.
it is that they're living.
How were the living conditions at the Chinese grow?
Not the best, I mean.
I wouldn't wanna live there.
I mean, they were pretty temporary, it looked like, I mean, they had. I mean, I don't know, for a bunch of dudes, I guess it was okay.
It's
So I-
tricky too, knowing like culturally, it's a very clean culture. Like, I think that's something that they hold at very high esteem, so I think it was like definitely not the worst you guys have seen for sure, but
So
just
you've
like
seen their kitchens,
thinking through.
Kitchen was gross.
Yeah,
cooking walks and everything's covered in this much grease.
Yeah.
These rooms were probably like maybe 8 by 8,
Yeah.
like a cot and like a dresser. Basically.
For one person or multiple?
For one, some of the rooms, like maybe there was probably like a 12 by 12 room that had like 5 cots in it. So, it had the ability of housing probably like maybe 8 to 12 people.
Hmm.
Or something that if we were living there would say house 3.
Right,
So-
right.
I was gonna say just a challenge too is like, we never want to put somebody in a worse position. And so maybe them being in that position was actually better than, say, they leave there and how, like, it's gonna be very difficult to find housing immediately.
Yeah.
So then, like, what situation are we putting them
Yeah.
into? So we also want to be really careful of not to make it worse, which you obviously hope that labor trafficking is the worst, but it might not be.
Well, just getting uprooted and put into a hotel could be traumatic.
Yes, and yeah, it's like, we can pay for a hotel for a couple of nights, but long term, what are we gonna do? We have had some more, I think they're Hispanic, Mexican, who wanted to go back to their country, so we were able to kind of work with the Mexican consulate to have them go back, but also many times that would be, they might get hurt if they were sent back, so we're always just very aware, like, safety and what that would look like.
Light stuff.
Yeah,
Thanks for
wow.
allowing us to come.
So we have really good dark humor, we
Yeah.
can.
Take a picture of that.
I'll just say this too about it, sometimes as law enforcement, it gets difficult because we have to balance out. Yeah, these folks might be getting trafficked. They're also committing a crime, but it might be the only opportunity we have to document who they actually are. So sometimes by charging them with the crime, taking them to the jail, even though the jail won't hold them, they'll then be fingerprinted and we can identify them. So then later on down the road, if they do get trafficked and moved out of state again, let's say in Southern California, and we run into them again, there's national databases that we can then fingerprint and go, oh my gosh, this is the same guy from here. Or suppose the worst case scenario, we find a body that's dumped somewhere. We now have a place that we can begin to track who is this individual, where are they from? And I don't always like to get the fingerprinting the victim, but sometimes it's the only opportunity we have to actually continue to follow this individual. And most of the time, I would suspect if we arrested them on a minor crime of just helping to manufacture, our DA would probably not prosecute that. We're looking for the bigger fish anyways.
Mhm.
Sometimes, especially, I mean, that's the only identification or form they have, that's sometimes advantageous for down the road, so.
What about facial recognition? Because that's so good now, you know, all the airports are using it.
When we get the funding, it would be great.
Actually, a question for you, do you know if, since we've had multiple of our clients who were trafficked on the illicit marijuana farms and then trafficked in a different industry? I don't think any of them were in contact with law enforcement in the second industry, but would that be something that would be cross-checked also? I guess if they have fingerprints
They would have to be,
or like.
they'd have to have contact with law enforcement
Yeah.
at some point. The only way we would use fingerprints is if they were rearrested, so we can verify their identity, but, or if they were deceased, but, correct me if I'm wrong.
And I will say the other industries haven't been like illicit, like it was more like a third party contractor that was hiring
No,
drivers.
but yeah, if somebody got contacted by, if they contacted law enforcement and say, this is still going on with me, I'm not sure, whatever.
Yeah,
Then absolutely, they could say, hey, this is, this is who I am, they could get and dig backwards. Check their criminal history and then it would see that they were arrested on whatever crime, they might not have been convicted on it, but then they could go backwards from there. And see that this person's continuing that unfortunate circumstance.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, by the way.
We've done that in the past where we, like he was saying, you arrest them for a lower level crime, lodge them so you get your fingerprints and documentation. Then they go into a database and there's another database that our analyst uses that is a deconfliction. And essentially their names would be they would go in as either workers or managers or kingpins, right? Or whatever they are in that drug trafficking organization. And we've seen it time and time again where we've encountered somebody and Danielle, our analyst, will run them and be like, well, they hit it at Grow over in Salem, they hit it at Grow in Portland, they hit it at Grow in Southern Oregon. And at that point, then you got to make the decision. Are they being trafficked, right? They're being forced to go to different places. Well, then she will pull those reports from those locations and find out, oh no, he was actually high up, right?
Oh,
And he, when we encountered him, he act as if he was essentially a peon, right?
yeah.
So, no, okay, so we're gonna follow through with these criminal charges and actually maybe tack some additional criminal charges on that.
Right.
So that helps us track that, but again, a lot of it's just documentation,
Yeah.
but again, it's not easy to document because like you said, you can't photograph necessarily victims, so that's why we actually discussed over the years some of these cases. Even though they are workers and we don't think that they're the kingpin, they're still going to be arrested and processed so that we can document them. Will that charge potentially be dropped? Absolutely. if we can determine that they are a victim in this or they were not one of the higher ups. A lot of times what we're doing is we'll put the head of the snake, not necessarily,
Can you? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Fingerprint in the field?
well,
So there are agencies out there, it's called APHIS, there are mobile places that can do that. Ours is currently, we don't have one, they're quite expensive, we have one at the jail. But I do know, like in California, like, CHP has some mobile stuff for when they have fatalities, and the only thing that they can use to identify somebody is their fingerprints. I know that from having
I
a friend of
think,
mine who deceased in a very dramatic manner, that's how they
Oh,
were able to
wow.
get to them, but, and that's okay, like,
Yeah.
at least they have that resource, and so. yes,
I
go
think
ahead.
the only access we have to it here is through HSI,
Right,
and we're trying to avoid bringing HSI on these.
What does that stand for?
Homeland Security.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, I think labor trafficking at the state level, they're working on looking at the statute of limitations for being able to report. Because sometimes it would take many years to feel comfortable enough to go to law enforcement. So we never report to law enforcement unless there's a youth involved or they want to go. You know, but we'll try to develop that relationship and try to build some trust there. Don't think any of our labor trafficking from the cannabis farms have reported, but it's also,
It'll be helpful.
yes. Yeah. We're still working with a few of them, so we're, you know, building that relationship.
I mean, they just must be terrified.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're told to be terrified of law enforcement as well, right, because.
yeah, of
Yeah.
course,
Right.
right.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. I do know that, just in California, ICE did hit a marijuana farm. They found a slew of undocumented workers down there. They also found some children. And so they did find some labor issues, we'll call it that.
Yeah.
Significant labor issues that were going on down there in the midst of everybody else. So, I mean, California, like Humboldt County is a mess, so.
Yeah.
It's tricky, the clients we work with too, it's like both, there is that fear of law enforcement, and especially if they're not from here, like learning what law enforcement is here, but also this deep fear of their trafficker and what will happen, like, it's more about what their trafficker thinks of law enforcement at sometimes. And so that's obviously a lot more convoluted and tricky to kind of help them through. And we never like push anyone, like Bree said, I just always am like, continued presence would be really nice for you right now, like, you know, I know some people that can help us with that, but yeah.
I don't think it's gonna stick to just the illicit market. I think it's already in the legal market.
I was just gonna ask you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In Oregon.
Agree with you 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, they're buying licenses like crazy.
Yes, they are.
So.
Yeah.
internationals are buying licenses to do legal grows. Potentially,
Yeah.
allegedly, let's use that.
Yeah. Yeah.
The amount of licenses available is capped, so.
Yes.
That makes it.
And the market's in the toilet, so they're cheap.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Lots of great nuggets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go Oregon, come on.
Well, thank you. That was
Yeah.
really interesting. I
Yeah.
appreciate your time. And thank you for reaching out.
Absolutely,
And
yeah,
it's-
we want to be a resource, so we're definitely here to support, if it makes sense for us to show up to meeting again, like, please let us know anything we can do to kind of broaden our reach in the community. Like I said, a huge part of what I do is just let people know we need to care about labor trafficking, that's what I get to do like day in and day out.
Labor trafficking specific person in
All
all of
of
Eastern
Central
Oregon.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Awesome.
So, because, yeah,
So,
the
if you have
volume.
questions coming in, I don't know, I'll slide them out.
That's great.
Can
Thank
I
you.
share the PowerPoint with the group here?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'll send it around to everyone,
Good.
so y'all have that information.
I have some of my cards that I'll leave as well, just because you can never have too
You
much.
asked me to bring flyers and I completely forgot.
That's okay.
Well, if you wanna send me an electronic flyer,
Okay, yeah.
then I can share I'll share the PowerPoint and the flyer with everyone who's here in the room.
That'd be awesome, and once we get our labor trafficking specific materials developed, I'll make sure to share those out
Okay.
as well. Those are gonna be a little bit centered more around like workers' rights as kind of like an entry point. But yeah, that'd be great. That'll be-
And we're hoping to have a
Thank you.
Spanish, Chinese, Cantonese, Mandarin, so trying to have wider range. We were scrambling a little bit for this last one because we didn't have things translated, or not everything, so we did our best, but we're gonna do better. I got kind of, it wasn't on our top priority at that moment until it was.
I learned partially because I speak Spanish and could help, and then I was like, actually, we need Mandarin.
All right, well, again, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's okay, we're staying around for
Oh, yes, we're basically, this is it.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
we're free to stay.
Are there any public comments
Thanks for doing the work you guys do, it's awesome.
out there in the world? No?
No,
Okay.
yeah, no one online.
Next step is our next meeting, October 20th is the placeholder. I am not traveling on that day. So it's good on my calendar.
Okay, great.
Do I need to be here for the?
Well, this is what I'll say about that meeting is that, right now, we don't have any meeting agenda topics.
Right.
We're gonna do, our January meeting will be the budget meeting where we get the proposals and the mid-year update. So we could just do a Zoom meeting
Yeah.
on the 20th and just clock in, clock out. We'll ask for the quorum because we need the minutes approved. You will officially, Tony will be the person. I'll get that. Oh, we would have had a going away party for you, had we known.
Someone's got too much time to do now.
So I'll do, Monday, October 20th, 6 PM, Zoom only.
Okay.
Great,
Unless something pops up and there's an agenda topic that
sure,
must be met.
Okay.
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, all right. It is now 7:04 and the meeting is officially over.
Bye, Matt. Bye,
Thanks,
Matt.
everybody.
Hope you got to your, yay.
No longer illegal in his driving.
You got nominated to stay on for 2 more years.
Oh, yeah, you wanna get a thumbs up for your 2-year
I
appointment?
saw thumbs up.
Yeah. Your appointment expires on October 17th, and we're just begging you to stay for 2 more years. You can email me, yes, you'll do it? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
Bye.
Me too.